So I'm just gonna go over Thunderbreaker. Um, and just full disclaimer, this is a sub-main class that I play. I normally play Dawn Warrior, but I figure since everyone plays Dawn Warrior at this point, it's like not that exciting. So I'm just trying to highlight a more underplayed class. So just to give an introduction, which many people may know, but Thunderbreaker is a pirate Cygnus Knight class, and it is kind of noticeable for its like stormy sea aesthetic and a lot of like lightning based skills. And just like Buck, its main stat is strength with Knuckles as primary weapon. It's primarily played as a DPM focus class, and it does have to chain and combo some skills together, so it will require a high actions per minute. But compared to like other combo skill classes, it's relatively beginner friendly. So that's just because overall it's not as many skills and it has a higher focus on animation canceling, which makes it easier to kind of just like button mash rather than having to time your combos really. So chaining your skills is pretty easy. It's a 2 minute burst class and has really good mobility and it has its own iframe. So to go over more of that, um, because of its animation cancel nature, it has a nearly full damage uptime, and with it being a 2 minute burst class, it's overall a great boss meal option. Like I said, it's pretty easy to learn to burst in combos, which I'll go over in a bit. And it has a lot of fluid mobility, both horizontal and vertical movement. It has the option to air stall. Its dashes have little delay, and you could chain some skills together to do really long dashes. The iframe that it has is pretty good. Like it's on demand, has 45-second cooldown, and boost notes are pretty easy with this class. However, on the downside, it Thunderbreaker doesn't really offer a lot of parties. Well, it doesn't offer party support at all. And compared to other classes, it's kind of middling. It's not that great, but it's not horrible either. Um, it doesn't have a class bind, and also because you're pretty much button mashing all the time, it gets a little fatiguing for boss fights, so it's not really for everyone. And it's heavily reliant on animation cancellation. So when you're trying to do very small granular movements, it can get pretty tricky. So a misconception about Thunderbreaker is that it's very combo heavy, which is true, but also at the same time not true. So for the most part, you're only repetitively using two skills at a time. It's usually going to be Annihilation, which is this skill over here, the shark, and you're alternating it with Thunderbolt when you're off burst. And then when you are using your burst, the skill will not be um, under any like cooldown. So this is basically Gale. You could spam it when you're bursting. So you would replace Thunderbolt with Gale, and then you would alternate Annihilate and Gale. So that's your main like button mashing that you're doing. These other skills on the bottom, they're mainly just for movement. And then this is the iframe here. These two skills are basically used when it's off cooldown, so you're not really casting it that often. It's usually like every 8 or so seconds. So, although overall it looks like a lot of skills, you could see that like a good chunk of them are for its movement toolkit. And overall, you're really just using like four different attacking skills for DPM and not counting your origin. So, just to go over its movement toolkit, um, we have Ascension over here. And also, just for reference, these skills correspond with these images in order. So, Ascension is for vertical up air movement, and you could also spam it to air stall. Um, in addition, if you are like flash jumping and then cast Ascension, you do carry horizontal momentum, so you could actually like jump pretty far with it. And then Thunder is your dive skill. You can chain it with Ascension, so Ascension could bring you up, and then you could dive with Thunder. Or you could just jump, and then at the height of your jump, you could just use Thunder to dive down quickly. In addition, this could be chained together with the following skill, Tidal Crash, if you want to extend your horizontal movement when you land on the ground. So Tidal Crash is your simple dash skill. It has a pretty good distance on its own, and it has a really low delay, which actually makes it pretty nice because you can move around pretty fluidly. Um, the thing to note about Tidal Crash that some people may sometimes forget is that you can press the down key mid animation to cancel your dash. So the thing about Thunderbreaker is that since you're kind of stuck animation canceling, if you ever needed to just make slight movements, it's kind of hard to do so because the last skill you're using, you're not animation canceling sometimes. So waiting for that animation before you make the movement can be difficult sometimes. So if you need to, you could use Tidal Crash as a way out by having that down key cancellation. And then the last skill is called Flash. It's a pseudo teleport skill. It only goes horizontally, and what it does is it basically teleports a short distance to a nearby enemy. But if there is no enemy in front of you, it goes like a fixed distance. And this skill can be useful for things like ducking during Saren's various attacks. So you could easily kind of maneuver around them without having to be stuck in one spot all the time. Um, and then just to kind of demo some of the combos. So that's Ascension and Thunder being used together. Ascension, Thunder, then Tidal Crash. And then here's just Thunder and Tidal Crash. And then Flash and Tidal Crash linked together. So you could see that it's pretty quick back to back. So you could chain them together for some really extensive movements. Oops, I need to play again. Um, and then that's just what my keybind needs are. I typically group a lot of my movement skills together. Um, and then my attacking skills are usually on the F row. Just something to note, Thunderbreaker does have two toggle skills that can actually be macroed together. And this is just something that you turn on before you do anything because it's just kind of set it and forget it. So training on Thunderbreaker primarily uses Thunderbolt. It's your main mobbing skill and has a pretty good hitbox, both vertically and horizontal. But for further horizontal range, you have Shark Torpedo, and it's usually on an 8-second cooldown. So you'll see that a lot of Thunderbreakers will have a -2 second cooldown hat specifically for training so that it could fit within spawn cycles. And then Lightning Cascade is normally an active skill for your burst, but when you're not casting it, it actually has a passive effect that has lightning that bounces to nearby enemies. So that's additional mob clears. And then another passive effect is with the skill Sea Wave. It summons a rolling ball when you're comboing every 12 seconds. And that's pretty much easy to trigger when you're using Thunderbolt with any other skill. Um, Also, when you are in sixth job, Hexa Thunderbolt actually spawns a second Sea Wave every 6 seconds. So you get two balls at once a lot of the time, and this could be used in certain maps where you want to clear mobs on the bottom platform. It does roll off ledges, so it's not suitable for every map, but it is kind of helpful for additional mob clears. And other than that, you pretty much have like the common class stuff, Sylvanas or the shower. We don't have any built-in class summons, so you do have to use those if you're not able to clear maps with the other skills. So specifically as a boss mule, you really only need your main attacking skills to be boosted, which is an Annihilate, Thunderbolt, and Gale. It's also there's a skill in a later job where it's boosted by Typhoon, so it kind of goes by either name. Um, If you decide to main or sub main Thunderbreaker, you obviously have to do this China, but your secondary boost nodes will just be your movement skills, Ascension, Thunder, and Tidal Crash. So it's two sets at most, which is pretty easy. Um, I would personally say that Thunderbreaker is an excellent boss meal up to Lotus. Damien can be a little annoying just because you have pretty bad damage uptime when you're midair. So sometimes you're kind of just like waiting for Damien to move. And in addition to that, if you're doing slime, 2 minute burst cycle is kind of awkward with their test timing. And other than that, I feel like all the other bosses, Lucid Will and C10E, are generally great. Um, Thunderbolt is part of your attacking toolkit, so you could clear mobs pretty easily. Um, you have really nice vertical movement, which can be helpful in bosses like Lucid or even Will when you're trying to dodge stuff in phase two. Um, and because your movement skills don't interrupt your attacking that much, it's really nice to just keep up damage during a lot of bosses, like Gloom, for example. Um, and yeah, other than that, it's a lot of it's just nice horizontal movement. It's really fluid and very easy to maneuver around different boss mechanics. So the way you would burst is, like I said before, you have these two toggle skills, which you would just have on at all times. Off burst, you would just alternate Annihilate and Thunderbolt. When Gale or Shark Torpedoes off cooldown, you would just cast them. For bursting, you just do all your buffs. You could do the next two in either order. You either use Origin or you have this attacking skill, Lightning Spear Multi Strike, which you just kind of use for like a few seconds. And then after these skills, you're pretty much just alternating Annihilate and Gale the entire time and using Shark Torpedo off cooldown. So a lot of it mirrors your off burst with just slight differences and like two extra skills basically. Deep Rising is your iframe skill, and yeah, you just have your movement skills when necessary. And reiterating again that Tidal Crash is able to be cancelled if you need to be careful with your movements, like in V-Hilo. And Ascension can help with air stalling if needed. So just a short clip of me demoing some of the bossing and movement on Thunderbreaker. Slight disclaimer, it's not that amazing because I played with 100% skill opacity, so I couldn't see a lot of things. So I'm just buffing up here. You can see I'm using Ascension to just dodge the bottom, and I'm alternating my skills, and then you saw that I did Lightning Spear and then Origin. So yeah, this is just Gale and Annihilate with Shark Torpedo being thrown in. And you can see that I'm doing my dashes at the same time. My burst ended, so now I have to use um, Thunderbolt with Annihilate instead. So yeah, I feel like the movement's pretty fun on this, and bossing's pretty fun overall. So that's pretty much all I have. Um, Thanks for listening in.